back, and thanks for staying with us. Now let's get our teeth into the topic for today, and the first one we're going to be looking at is the National Conference. On Monday last week, the President opened the National Conference, calling on delegates to tackle the country's burning issues head-on and to build a stronger, more united nation, even though the conference was postponed till Monday. Only a few issues regarding logistics were dealt with, so the conference really begins on Monday with about 500 delegates covering various ethnic groups, religious and linguistic groups from all across the nation. Now, to focus on this conference with us this morning, it's my pleasure to welcome Ahmed Tijani, who is the Secretary, Arewa Youth. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
And next to him is Tony Nyiam, who is a delegate to the National Conference, and you may recall that he was a member of the Presidential Advisory Committee on the National Conference. Good morning, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, too.
And on my right is a legal practitioner, Mr. Bisi Adegbuyi. Good morning.
Good morning.
And
Thanks
thank you for being
I'm
here.
also a delegate.
Also a delegate. Did I see your name on that list?
Check again.
You must have been there somewhere. Thank you for joining us. Now let me begin with the youth. You are not a delegate, are you?
No, I'm not a delegate.
Okay. Now, what are your thoughts about this national conference? A lot of Nigerians, even those who were skeptical before, some have finally come around and are looking at this conference as something that might answer some of the questions and deal with some of the major issues which we face as a nation. What is your thought?
Yes, my thoughts, and incidentally my organization's position as well, is that half bread is better than none. Because I remember we've been agitating for a sovereign national conference for years, from my organization point of view, even at the point when we worked with Pronaco. My organization's leadership was the youth wing coordinator. And at that point, I remember we had a very good relationship with Sir Pantoni and Aporo late, with Wale Shoenka and the rest. So now what I'm trying to say here is we called for a sovereign national conference so that for once and for all, the issues that is bedeviling the various sectors of the country will be taken on full front.
So you called for sovereign
we did, and we are
national
still
conference,
calling, but
and
the
you
issue
got
is,
national conference.
Since we now stopped at the kind of dialogue that is now preferred, obviously, who is in the driving seat? The President of the Federal Republic is in the driving seat. He opted, with his own wisdom, that the dialogue as it is the best option. So now, what you do is you hope for the best, given the circumstances the country is in. Because our position is that there is no point at a time when Nigeria should experience a breakage, a breakup. So to that extent, whoever is in the driving seat will need the support of trying to hold on that fabric. So whatever it is that is going on at the National Conference and what will unfold is something that is going to be interesting. And more so, we hope at the end of the day, something will come out of it from the various delegates who have turned up there.
So,
bearing in mind that we have heard the various reports earlier on, which was swept under the carpet, and nothing came out of it. It is sad. Would have gone further than where we are now. But
so
the fact that
good.
there is no referendum at the end of the whole show really is a disappointment.
Okay, we'll come to the issue of referendum.
I don't think that has been decided yet.
It will end up there, ma'am. We know that.
Okay, so
That's preempting, but
okay,
that's
well,
our position.
that will be a subject for conversation during the course of this program this morning. But the other key issue is Arawa Youth is supposed to be representative of the young people of the northern part of Nigeria. That's correct, right?
Basically.
Basically. Okay, now you have the elders of the northern part of Nigeria being Northern Elders Forum.
Yeah.
Now, they have said that they're not interested in this, that this is not going to go anywhere. So, where do you begin to merge the opinion of the young people of the North and the elders of the North? Where do you begin to merge? Because if you say you're very happy this is happening and the elders are saying absolutely not, we'll have none of it.
No, I'm not saying I'm happy this is happening. I'm saying I'm taking half bread because it is better than none.
In other words, you are for the conference.
I have to be for the conference so that things will move.
And the leaders are anti.
Yeah, well, the positions they have taken is just being the same as everybody knew. They are conservative. I'm not going to hide that. And we are progressives. We need changes. To
See,
that
the
effect,
digital
Okay.
age again, the
Yes.
digital children.
So
Okay.
to that effect, they are not giving us what we asked for.
Okay. All right, Colonel Nyiam, you were part of the group that the presidency had put together to go carry out the consultation on what the framework will be for this dialogue or this conference that has just started this week. At some point, you had to step aside using a manner of speaking, and now you are in the national conference. The first week is being all about housekeeping, but it also begins to tell you what the temperature will be, cool, warm, or hot. What is your thought?
Two things. First, let me begin by looking at the dialectics of the terminology Sovereign National Conference. We always, in our country, always get carried away by nomenclature. Sovereign National Conference is not a thing, it's a process. I think it all depends on how this conference is handled and how we, the delegates, handle it. It may turn out to be a sovereign national conference because I've not seen that terminology, you see, in other climates, a process starts. Once the people are in control of the process, it becomes sovereign. And of course, if you read the president's speech, it's very clear. It's the most liberating speech I've ever seen. Because in that speech, he made it clear that both the executive and the legislative have to listen to the people. And with me, I don't see anybody, you don't need to be a scientist to know that he's saying it is the people who would decide. And he's left the conference, because the conference would decide, and he even allowed for room for the possibility for a referendum, and even the possibility of a new constitution. I think it was one of the most liberating speech a president has ever had. Two, we have all along had, like my colleague said, conferences before. But this is the first time we have had conferences that there is no big power behind intimidating us which way we go. In most times, it's either the colonial power or military juntas. But here we have a regime where anybody can say anything they like, anybody can, so it's the best opportunity we have. So what we are now, as far as I see it, we are going through the process which is left to us to make sovereign or not.
Okay, let me come to you then. You're a lawyer, and you happen to be in the thick of it now as a member of the National Conference, a participating member. What is your thought since you started the last 1 week?
Well, let me start from the concept of the sovereign nature of the conference. Section 14, subsection 2 of 1999 Constitution confers sovereignty on the Nigerian people, and the president emphasized that in his speech. I think the misconception or the controversy surrounding it emanated from the belief from members of the National Assembly that once you have been elected into the National Assembly, you become a sovereign. No, that's an exaggerated opinion about themselves. And in any case, their concept of sovereignty is old, archaic, stale, and cannot in any way be justified under any democratic
So
dispensation.
what makes a conference sovereign?
Sovereignty to the extent that decisions reached at the conference will be inviolable, that nobody will tamper with it.
In essence, it does not go to the National Assembly or anybody else for ratification. It becomes law.
Yes, because the ultimate custodian of power in any country or democratic country or democracy is the people. They hire and fire. They will elect you, and if you have done well, they renew your mandate. If you have performed below par, they send you packing. Now let me go further. Recall the 1979 Constituent Assembly. They came up with resolutions, Constituent Assembly, and after that resolutions were brought together, the military junta at that material time tampered with it. They removed certain parts from it. And people are saying that once we decide some people should go and represent us to come up with resolutions that will eventually be codified in the Constitution, nobody has any power whatsoever to tamper with it. That is as far as sovereignty is concerned.
Okay.
You really can't blame some people who still believe that they hold sovereign powers over and above the people. They are still living in the past. The dictators of old, whose words were law, were sovereign in their state because their words were law. They didn't have limited term. They ruled in perpetuity, and therefore they were next to God. So if you have a limited mandate of 4 years in the National Assembly, there's no way you can be a sovereign. At best, you have a mandate that's renewable. Okay? And after that, the people will still decide whether they want you back there or not.